war in Iraq. That ESR was, was sort of the voice of the hacker community to a lot of different people. But then when he started espousing a lot of overtly political views that had absolutely nothing to do with the hacker community, he still claimed to speak for hackers and say, oh yeah, we're all for war and we're all against terrorism, things like that, and that it became clear to him after a while that it was obviously not the case. And I think that we've had a couple of these different representatives who have, claimed to speak for them and speak for us, and we find out that no, they get too wrapped up in their own thing, and they speak for themselves. They don't speak for anybody anymore. One of the things that the Hacker Foundation tries to do is to try to get as many people from many different parts of the community together and collaboratively putting together a message that speaks for the hacker community. We're not trying to appoint any one person. I don't personally claim to speak for the hacker community. Jesse doesn't claim to speak for it. Jennifer Granick doesn't claim to speak for it. What we try to do in all of our monthly board meetings and every time we get together is to get a sense of what's going on in the community. What are the needs here? Are the feds clamping down on us a lot harder than they were? Is one federal agency, giving us, slack in some areas, but another federal agency is trying to take away our rights in another area. And, we're not the EFF, we're not the Hacker Defense Fund. What we're trying to operate as is a voice for everybody in the community to put together, to put what they think in, to try to collect all those different ideas and try to come up with a message that at the very baseline we can all agree on. One of the things that I would like to try to do with this whole effort is sort of going back to my first point, recapture the term hacker. When I say, I'm a hacker, I'm not saying I'm a criminal. I'm not saying that I, through my technical knowledge, I'm trying to acquire more power in order to use and put forward, things that I want to do to try to take down my enemies. No, I'm trying to be an innovator. I'm trying to help a lot of my friends that have an incredible technical talent. I'm trying to help a lot of my friends that have been working on these different things put out there and put out, their knowledge and their skills and to try to make the world a better place. That we see a lot of people who are, quote unquote doing innovation, but are really piling on really crufty things on top of other crufty things and trying to sell it and to trying to push it out there as the latest innovation. That too much of the innovation that we see right now out there in the technical sphere is just what marketing pitch can we, come up with? What bells and whistles and features can we put out there, to sort of make things better and to sell more products so that my stock price goes up, so that when I vest, I have more money when I get out. I really hate talking about it. I specifically decided not to pursue technology as a career because I saw what it was doing to a lot of people, especially in the .com era. I arrived in San Francisco in 2001, fresh out of college, and a lot of people had a really altruistic viewpoint of the world who wanted to put out code to make the world better were now thinking, well, I have stock options. I have money. I have a paycheck. If my boss tells me to just get this code done, not caring if it's right, just to get it done and get it out there so that, we can hit our quarterly numbers, I'm going to do it. And I was just shocked by this. That money, you got to really watch out for it. Money is a really, really seductive thing. That even though you go into things with the best of intentions, when you get wrapped up in that corporate ethic, you become a part of it. The money is very, very seductive, especially when you start living a certain lifestyle that you become accustomed to. It's really hard to go back. It's so easy to live, much more outside of your means. It's really hard to come back from an extravagant lifestyle to a more simple way of living. So it's kind of unrelated, but just watch out for that. But getting back to my original point, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to use my skills that I'm developing in the accounting sphere to try to be able to get as much possible advantage, both in the grant sphere, both in the nonprofit sphere, to be able to let you guys do what exactly it is that you want to do. And that's basically, the end of my message. Does anybody have any questions specifically, things that they'd like me to go over? Yes?
Has your group branched out with any colleges or universities to develop relationships, to kind of foster some of this research and some of the ideas, and to kind of, like a senior class project, that kind of stuff, where, there is a group of people in colleges and universities that have great ideas, that want to do things to kind of help, third world countries develop better forms of communication and the $100 PC and cell phone networks, and you mentioned the X500 emailing in third world countries, and there's a, you know, I saw it as myself going through college and had a lot of great ideas, had a lot of energy, and had time to do something with it, but really didn't have a conduit to flow it through, or a direction or something, and to get some funding and, you know, and that kind of thing. Have you reached out to universities to, you know, make these relationships?
Did you guys all hear his question okay?
Sorry.
Over here, did you guys hear his question? He was basically asking, you know, has the Hacker Foundation reached out to colleges and universities to try to, you know, get independent researchers that are working in the academic community grant funding? And no, that's not something that the Hacker Foundation has done. One of the other things that you find out about trying to pursue colleges and universities, and in that sphere, I mean, we tried it very, very little bit, but then we're scared away, that universities, even in and of themselves, even though they tend to serve a more altruistic purpose, are political organizations in and of themselves. That when you go in there and when you try to say, well, you know, we'd like to offer your students grant funding. No. Any grant funding that comes through this university is ours. We administer it. We have to take care of it because we have certain rules and we have certain things. And it's a very political thing, especially at universities, that it's really hard to help people who are already affiliated with universities and sort of working on the fringes of different projects, either helping out their friends that are officially involved with a lot of research projects. And no, we haven't reached that out specifically. And that, honestly, if you're working within a university, if your research project is in any way supported or funded by a university, the Hacker Foundation is more than willing to help you pile through the grant paperwork that the university puts on you to try to get university-based funding. But because we're specifically, you know, our purpose is to serve the people who are not served by any other organization that's out there, that a lot of the efforts that we're putting out, at least in terms of administering grant funding and helping people do that sort of thing, is dedicated to that avenue. We would love to help you try to write grants and to try to help you pile that on because, you know, universities, even more so than corporations, love paperwork. They love long flowing statements. They love huge 8-tier PowerPoint presentations that go through all of the various different wonderful things that your project is trying to accomplish and this, that, and the other. And again, when you throw a 40-page grant application at a hacker, you know, they're going to look at it, they're going to flip through it, they're going to say, you know, really, my time is better spent working on my code than trying to get through this thing, you know, with a lot of language and things like that I don't really understand. So we're more than willing to help you pile through that 40-page grant application to help you get funding within your university, but as far as, you know, sort of trying to break you out of the university mold, you know, and get you going on your own thing, we try to avoid doing that, you know, in there. But once you're out of college, you know, when you're no longer a student, when you no longer have a lot of the access privileges that you used to have, and are trying to get out there and continue to pursue the work that you're doing on your own, we're more than willing to try to help you at that point pick up, you know, the pace and to try to get different funding. Even if it's there's some grants out there that try to fund independent researchers in a way, and we will try to help you get that, but that specifically going into colleges is not something that we're out there and targeting doing. Next question. Somebody else has to have a question. Jesse. Thank you.
This is a question that I had with someone last night, and I don't know if I thoroughly answered it for them, but I'll ask you. You're developing something in the foundation. Can you spin it off into a for-profit activity after, as it grows and changes?
Okay.
You come in a nonprofit, you know, altruistic model thought process thing you want to do. Then you're like, wait a second, I just developed like this awesome new cell network. Can you?
The question basically is if you're an independent researcher and going out there doing independent research, can you take, you know, what you've been doing and then you sort of drift off into a for-profit model? That's a complicated legal question, but the simple answer is no. But here's a couple of different things. If you're learning a lot of the processes and getting much more adept, you know, if you've ever written code and you've written code for a long time, that just through the process of troubleshooting and getting code more optimized, more efficient, you realize that the more you code, the better of a coder that you become. A lot of those skills that you're building in developing things in the nonprofit sphere are things that you can easily leverage and go out and use to get a job in the corporate sphere. So the yes answer to the question in that way is the skills that you're developing, some of the technology and the expertise in the field that you're developing in the nonprofit sphere is something that makes you more marketable. But if you develop a specific method or a specific patent while ostensibly serving a nonprofit exempt purpose, you have to give that back to the community. that under the open source development model, if you come up with an innovation like that, you're legally bound through various different licensing agreements, depending on which ones you're bound under, to give that back, to free it open, and to not try to seek a specific overt profit purpose from that. And a lot of times what I found, people who have tried to do that and tried to get through the law and try to work with attorneys and get things like that, actually end up spending a lot more on attorneys and a lot more on legal processing than they will ever see as a profit coming out of that project. And you know, the whole idea behind developing under the nonprofit model, the whole idea that we're here is to try to help you live and maintain that, and to try to give as much back to the community as possible, as opposed to trying to develop, you know, one thing for you to be able to get all this grant funding, to be able to, you know, have a PayPal button on your site that people can donate to and get a tax receipt to write off on their taxes for, to then later suddenly decide, okay, I'm going to go for profit now. That's not what we're here, and not what we're here about doing. So that's, I hope that answered the question mostly. Yes?
Well, kind of along those lines, I mean, could you do some sort of split model where the development still remains open, but you make money off of supporting the product? Let's say, you know, you come up with widget XYZ, which anyone can download and install for free, fully open source. But if people basically hire you for consulting fees to support the product or do installations, so the product still remains open, would that be something that...
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. I mean, offering support for pay under the open source model is perfectly legitimate. But then again, that goes back to the fact that you have a certain level of expertise with the product, that you're, even though you may not be collecting a W-2 from a corporation, you still have the marketability to go out there and get money for supporting the product and for teaching people how to use it.
Not to dissuade people thinking that they can't make money off of it, because there are definitely avenues where you
Right.
can
They
get those in the
can't,
community.
yeah, what I'm saying is that you can't make money off of the product or try to close the source or to try to take a development branch and use that development branch and sell the fruits of that development branch. You can always sell support. You know, there are a lot of people who are going to be willing and out there to pay you to, you know, help build certain things, help install certain things, help, you know, sort of customize and tweak, going through a lot of the complicated comp files to get it working for them. But another thing that I found is that the hacker community really is not that interested in providing tech support. You know, I've been frontline, third tier, second tier, end manager level tech support, and it is one of the worst jobs that's out there. I'm never going to go back and do that. Actually, that reminds me of an anecdote. When I was working for a department at the University of Michigan, I think we had just rolled out the version of Office where Clippy came up automatically. And just in one install, one build, we had it was normal policy to take that out of all of our builds just to make them a little bit easier. But, you know, we had sent one new guy to do a build for a specific version of, for another Dell computer that we had, just a ghost image basically, and he forgot to take that out. Well, so a secretary gets a new computer, you know, she fires it up and everything like that, and, you know, Clippy pops up and Clippy winks at her. And the university, being the political organization is, she decides to file a sexual harassment complaint against the computer. I'm not kidding you about this. I actually had to go into a sexual harassment hearing representing the technology department that I was working for and defend Clippy. As a
sexist bastard.
yeah. No, I mean, really, and there's some people, and this is getting recorded, I'm going to get in trouble for this, but no, there are people at universities that have so much time on their hands and have such a large foreign object lodged where the sun don't shine that they actually have time to go filing sexual harassment complaints against Clippy. And it was brutal. The administrative hearing that was held, they were attacking, you know, me and my department personally for, how could you do this? How could you allow such a sexist thing to be on the computer? I'm like, just fine, we'll take it off. Please, can this just be over? And, you know, going back to the original point that, yeah, hackers I don't think are that interested in doing tech support. But if you want to go out there and make money doing tech support, be my guest. More power to you. You know. Was there another question?
He's got another question.
Who does? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So say you are in this situation. Say you are a developer that's kind of hit the point where you say, okay, I'm at the level that I'm doing something. I need some extra help. What's the next process? Maybe just pick up the phone, call the Hacker Foundation, and have like a counseling. Say, hey, I'm this guy. I'm doing this stuff. Does it go through like a committee? Do you put together some sort of information button will say, here's what I'm doing. How the hell do you guys help me? Where do you go? What's step 2?